Thanks for watching. This is a walk around video with some detailed explanation regarding specific parts of this bike. It's a 1975 Suzuki T500M Titan, which will be listed on Bring a Trailer. I picked up this bike in 2015. It had been sitting out in a farm field in Alabama for about 15-20 years. Pretty rusty, although interestingly it started up on the first or second kick when I got it home. I then proceeded to completely take it apart, and literally everything on the bike has been reworked or rejuvenated. So I'll basically start at the front and work my way back. Also, please refer to my startup video for that particular aspect of the bike. So starting at the front, the entire front wheel was completely rusted out, so I sourced from Paul Miller, the famous, if not infamous, Suzuki parts dealer, some parts to make a complete new front wheel, including new hub, new rim, and new spokes. You'll notice the twin leading shoe front drum brake, which actually works pretty well if you have it set up properly. The brake pads are EBC. The wheel has all brand new all balls wheel bearings and all new cables. If I work my way up, the fork lowers were pretty rusty, so I had those stripped and re-chromed, completely rebuilt with all new seals. You'll notice this particular bike was somewhat unique. It had external springs. These were quite difficult to find. Paul Miller was able to provide me those, quite expensive. In addition, I got a new chrome fender. This is an aluminum, not plastic, Bates style headlight with aluminum headlight mounts that mount to the fork. I've got period correct clip-on handlebars from Fast from the past. New perches as far as the clutch and the brake, new throttle, and new grips. On this side, you'll see a kill switch, off, low, and high beam headlight. On this side, this is a Posh mini switch from Japan, left and right turn signals. And there's a free button that I do have currently wired. If the new owner wants to have a horn, that would be easy to add. All the wiring is internal, comes right out here and exits into the headlight bucket. You'll notice this odd looking thing on top of the triple tree. This is actually the stock steering damper, which you can turn clockwise to stiffen the steering response. Tank is actually a new old stock sourced Yamaha XS 750 tank, which is absolutely pristine, not a speck of rust, including the brand new fuel cap. I then, in order to avoid leakage and have a better setup, I welded on some bungs which accept new Pingle petcocks. There's one for the left carb and one for the right carb, so each carb has its own on-off switch. As long as I'm talking about body work, we'll go to the pan. This is aluminum, it's not fiberglass. This is a sturdy, thick aluminum pan with upholstery. You'll notice I went a little bit outside the box, and instead of left to right tuck and roll, I did front to back with silver piping and threads. These little units are X-Arc Duo turn signals. They're dual color, mini super bright LEDs. So they have red running lights followed by a red brake light, and then when you turn the turn signal on, the color will change to amber and it'll have a turn signal built into it. Very slick, very super bright. Underneath, I retained the stock inner fender, although I cut it down, powder coated it to match. That way you don't get splash up into the engine. And the wheel in the rear is the same, all new hub, rims, spokes, brand new old stock with new bearings and new chain. The front and rear tires are Avon Road Rider Mark II, which is kind of the gold standard for vintage style race bikes. This is a custom made license bracket that bolts right onto the shock mount. The shock is a brand new old stock sourced shock. The swing arm was powder coated. Inside you have all balls bearings along with upgraded brass bushings. You can kind of see it poking out right there. Those brass bushings really significantly increase the rigidity of the swing arm. Speaking of rigidity, this is an added bracing on either side. Very common that the road racers with these bikes would add. It stiffens up the frame, which was known to flex a little bit. All right, here you'll see a custom-made oil reservoir. This bike is not pre-mix. It'll actually oil inject on its own, and there's the reservoir for that. When we get to the other side, you can see the cap for it. You'll notice this is a left-sided kickstart, which is a little bit unusual for this bike. And then here's the purpose-built rear sets from Titan Performance out of the UK. These are solid billet, heavy-duty pegs. And you can see the linkage for shifting. Powder coated the side stand and a brand new center stand, which you can remove if you'd like. As far as the engine goes, it actually did run on the second kick when I first got it, but it was pretty corroded. I took it completely apart, including splitting the crankcase. All the gears inside the crankcase were within spec, so I reassembled it. The cases and the jugs were all vapor blasted. The side covers were all polished. I sent the jugs off to Bill Boone out of Minnesota, a very famous two-stroke rebuilder. He put some Wiseco pistons in it. It runs great. The carbs are jetted appropriately. Those were also vapor blasted. Uni filters are installed for intake purposes. And then under here you can see there are a couple of, you can see two of them. There's two more on the other side of the oil lines. Extremely hard to find those. I sourced out a brand new set of oil lines. And if I go over to the other side, I'll show you the oil pump, which is underneath this cover. That was also brand new, which I sourced. So here's the cover for the oil reservoir. Oil goes down in there, pump injects it automatically right in through these. There's the other two. Rear sets here. The expansion chambers are a thing of beauty. They're stainless steel, polished, never will rust or corrode. Those are made out of Higspeed, UK. Custom made, took me 4 months to get them, cost a small fortune. Well worth it. Paint job was done by a local artist, Jason LeCavalier, goes by Artistimo. No vinyl, no pinstriping. This is all hand painted. Got charcoal metallic, silver metal flake, followed by lime green metal flake, and another silver metal flake stripe, including the Suzuki logo, which is a pearl white, which was hand painted. Again, no vinyl decals. I had them go ahead and put Ducati style number plates on there in case you want to have your own number on there. This is all hand painted as well. The other thing I wanted to talk about finally is the ignition setup. So I did away with the finicky points and the stock stator, and I went with a really slick unit out of Germany called Power Dynamo. Underneath this cover, there's a new rare earth magnet stator, which is high output. The points are gone now. It has a new electronic pickup. And then underneath the frame, that unit right there, that silver box, that's the new electronic control module, or ECM. So basically it's computerized ignition now. In addition, right in front of it, you'll see the fuse box. The nice thing about this unit, it does not require a battery, so there's no battery on board. After the first or second kick, this bike fires up. The high output stator then provides the required electricity to power all the electronics, including the ignition. I also have, to smooth out the voltage, a capacitor, which is, I don't think you'll see it, but it's mounted up underneath the tank. Actually, there it is right there in the little box. So that's a capacitor. If the new owner wants to add additional electronics, or is required to, based on where you live, you can certainly add a horn very easily, front signals very easily, and all that would be powered by the high output stator. I think that about covers everything. Thank you for looking. Again, please refer to my other video for a startup and running video.